Andy Halliday might be a big Rangers man, but he believes that only 4 Rangers men would get into the entire Celtic squad. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Football. Today we're going to break down a statement made by Andy Halliday regarding the Celtic squad and the fact that not many players from the Rangers squad would get into the Celtic squad. We're going to look at what he had to say, and then we're going to have a look at the Celtic squad. We're going to see just how many Rangers players would get in there. Celtic, as I last looked, currently have a 25-man first team squad. Are you telling me only 4 Rangers players are good enough to get in there? Are you telling me a 25-man made-up first team squad would only consist of 4 Rangers players and 21 Celtic players? I don't know. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But Andy Halliday, when speaking with Open Goal, made the controversial comment that only 4 Rangers players would get into the squad. Now, originally, I thought he meant only 4 would get into the starting 11, and I went, you know what, that's probably, maybe that's a bit too much. I'm thinking maybe 3 or 2 or 3, whatever. But he went with 4, and I thought, well, I guess at a push, maybe you could fit 4 in there if you're being generous. But then it turns out the comments was actually regarding the entire squad, which goes from being too generous to like way too harsh. I think we can all agree that there must be somewhere in the middle that we can meet, surely. We've got to find some common ground here. I don't think 4 Rangers players get in to the Celtic starting 11, but I certainly think that more than 4 Rangers players would get in to the Celtic first team squad. But Andy Halliday, he doesn't seem to agree. He thinks only 4 Rangers players would get in. However, he does think 1 player would get in to the starting 11, and that is Nicholas Raskin. So Andy Halliday believes that Nico Raskin would walk into the Celtic starting 11 over Arnie Engels. Now, I can't sit here and say that I necessarily disagree that Raskin could potentially get in, or that Raskin right now isn't playing better than Arnie Engels, but I'm looking at the 2 players. I don't really compare them. For me, Raskin's more of a holding midfielder, and Arnie Engels is more of an attacking midfielder. Raskin would never really play in the cam role. If you were going to put Raskin into the Celtic team, you would need to take out somebody other than Arnie Engels. You would need to take out Callum McGregor, and that's probably not going to happen. It just, it's a strange change, I think. If you're going to swap out someone for Arnie Engels, it would need to be an attacking midfielder from Rangers, like a Lawrence or a Hadji, and I just don't think you're going to do that. But that's what Andy Halliday reckons. Anyway, he went on to tell Open Goal, quote, "I think he would for Engels. That's why he's in the Belgium squad ahead of Engels. There aren't many. I think you would take Flagic Czerny in your squad anyway. You take Raskin in your squad. I think you would take Mohamed Diomande in your squad as well. That's probably it. Oh, and Suter. I'd take him in the squad. He's done well this year. He's one of the few pass marks, I'd say." End of quote. So, the 4 players Andy Halliday is going with are Raskin, Czerny, Diomande, and John Suter. I mean, I think that everyone would probably agree those 4 players are good enough to get into a Celtic squad. Maybe not the starting 11, but I certainly think they are good enough to get into a Celtic squad. Is there some more players that should be in there? I think so. I think it's crazy, Celtic's lack of attacking options in the middle, centre forwards, and Andy Halliday doesn't think that either Dessers or Igamani could get into the Celtic squad, just due to the lack of quality, the lack of options that Celtic have in that role. If you don't play Dyson Maeda as a centre forward, if you play Dyson Maeda on the left, then what Celtic have is fucking limited. They are down to the bare bones. You've got Adam Idah, who I've said since day one is shite, and people are beginning to wake up and realise it, and Johnny Kenny. I mean, a guy that's just not proven. How you would not take Igamani, Dessers, I'd even argue Danilo at this point. Not because necessarily any of them are great, but because the lack of options that Celtic have. Even if you're playing Maeda as a centre forward, even if you come out and you say that you're never playing Maeda on the wing again, and you claim to play Maeda only as a centre forward, you still take one of the Rangers centre forwards for backup, surely, just due to the lack of depth that Celtic have in that area. So, I mean, yeah, that's the 4 players that he picked. I think you could make a case for for Tavernier as well. I mean, obviously, probably wouldn't take him over Alistair Johnston, but Ralston. Are we going to sit here and say that Tav isn't better than Ralston, or Tav at least doesn't offer something that Ralston can't? I mean, we know Ralston. I mean, I don't want to bash Ralston. He's a Scottish player, but I just don't think he's that good. I mean, I can't sit here and say that Ralston's better than Tavernier. I can't. Tavernier, very good at penalties, good at free kicks, good delivery of the ball. He's an attacking threat, something that I don't think Ralston is at all. Anytime, I mean, just remembering the Euros and getting Ralston flashbacks, man. As pish as Tav can be at defending, I just feel like if Tav here was Scottish and he played in the Euros, who knows? Maybe we could have got out of that group. Maybe he wouldn't have made that mistake that Ralston made. I don't know. For me, to not pick Tavernier over Ralston, that's insane. I look at the Celtic goalkeepers as well. They've got 4 in their first team squad, and obviously Kasper Schmeichel's number 1. I don't think anyone would dispute that. But you tell me Liam Kelly and even, Jack Butterfucking Fingers Butland, you tell me they wouldn't be good enough to get into this, the 3 and 4 or even second spots at Celtic. Come on. I think Andy Halliday's had a nightmare here. I don't agree with them all. If I had to take a guess, I would imagine a 25-person team combined of Celtic and Rangers players would probably be something like maybe 16 Celtic players and 9 Rangers players. I'm imagining that, or maybe a bit closer, maybe 15-10 or 14-11. I mean, could it go the other way? Could it even be maybe, 17-8? I think so, yes, but certainly not 21-4. There's no way a 25-man squad from Celtic is made up. Those numbers, 21 Celtic players and 4 Rangers players. I don't think so. Anyway, let's have a look. Let's look at the Celtic 25-team squad here, and I'll tell you exactly who I would put in from a Rangers perspective. Right, they've got 4 goalkeepers, so therefore I would put in Butland and Liam Kelly. I'd take out Josh Clark and Scott Bain. Sinisalo, have not really seen enough of the guy. If you want to claim that Josh Clark is only there because he's young or whatever, and you wouldn't replace him with 2 guys that are in their 30s with Butland and Kelly, then I'll accept that. And I would just bring in Butland and Kelly for Bain and Sinisalo. Because we can say that Butland's made mistakes, but we can all agree that Butland's had a better prime than Sinisalo. Butland's had better peaks than Sinisalo. We've seen Butland do good things. We haven't really seen Sinisalo do great things, have we? So, I mean, come on. I think Butland and Kelly are definitely getting in there. For me, Kasper Schmeichel's the number 1, no doubt about it. But if Celtic have 4 goalkeepers, then 2 Rangers ones certainly get in there. Alright, let's move on to centre-backs then. You've got Carter Vickers, Trusty, Scales and Naroki. So that is the recognised 4 centre-backs at Celtic. Would any Rangers centre-backs get in there? 100%. John Souttar gets in. So we put in John Souttar straight away. Can anyone else displace either? I mean, alright, we know that Carter Vickers isn't going anywhere. I'd say Scales is second choice. Or maybe if you put Souttar in, then Scales is third choice, whatnot. If you take Naroki out, can anybody from Rangers get in there? I think Balogun's good. Would you take Balogun over Trusty? Probably not, because you spent $6 million on Trusty, but I certainly could put another Rangers centre-back in there. For now, I'll just agree that maybe Souttar's the only guy that goes in. I mean, you've got what? Proper, no. Nisala, no. You know what? I will agree that only Souttar's the centre-back that would go in, but I think you could make a case for Balogun, despite his age. I don't think that should matter right now for me. I think Balogun's a better defender than Naroki, and I think he's a better defender than Trusty. So, but we'll just go for Souttar for now, so that is free. Moving into the left backs, Greg Taylor and Jeffrey Schlupp. I would say no. I mean, we've seen Yefte and Yilmaz have decent games, but you know what? I wouldn't say they've done enough for me to take them over either Taylor or Schlupp, so I'll say no. Right back, I 100% would put in Tav over Ralston. It is what it is. I mean, I'd probably put Sterling in over Ralston. So either way, I would take Ralston out and I'd stick one of the Rangers right backs in. So already, I'm at 4. I'm already at 4 before moving into the midfield. So just through the goalkeepers and defence alone, based on what Celtic have, and if we just take position for position, right now, I'm going for 4. Midfield, you've got, just go with the centre mids for now. Engels, Hatate, McGregor, Bernardo, McCowan, McCarthy. Holy shit, I didn't even realise that McCarthy was still at Celtic. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Right, so Rangers, who they got in midfield? You got Bailey Rice, Diomande, Raskin, Connor Barron, Barami. Right, I agree. I put Raskin in. I would certainly put Raskin in there. Would you put Diomande in if it's just a straight swap? Are Diomande and Raskin better than two of these six players? I think you would take. I would say yes. You know what? I would put in Diomande and I would put in Raskin. I'd take out James McCarthy, who just shouldn't be there. He just should not. And I would probably take out Bernardo as well. So that's the two players I'd put in there. I would put in Raskin and Diomande. Moving on to the right hand side, who have they got? You got Forrest, I guess. He's your most. We'll go Forrest and Kuhn and Forrest, Kuhn, Yang. I'd say that's probably the right hand side. Forrest, Kuhn, or we just combine the wide players all together. I think that's maybe a better way to do it. So yeah, let's just do that then. Are we counting Dice, or do we just go with the forwards altogether? No, you know what? We'll count Dyson Maeda as, for me, he's been playing mainly as a forward, so I'm going to count him as a centre forward. The wingers then, you've got Jota, Kuhn, Yang, and Forrest. So that is the four wingers. From a Rangers perspective, who would I put in? I'd definitely put Tierney in there. 100% I would put Tierney in there. Definitely. I would definitely put Tierney in there. Who would I take out? I mean, take your pick. Forrest, Yang, doesn't really matter. I'd certainly put Tierney in there. And then if we move on to the centre forwards, if you have Dice and Maeda, Ida and Kenny as your centre forwards, 100% I would put in Dessers and Igamani over Ida and Kenny. So that would be my team. That would be my squad, and I obviously would have Maeda as the number one. And I'd actually feel a bit bad because I'm leaving out Yanis Hadji. So, and I think there's potentially room for him, but just being fair here, I wouldn't put him in. So I would have Butland in there, I'd have Kelly in there, I'd have Suter in there, I would have Tavernier in there, I'd go with Diomande and Raskin, bringing it up to 6. I would then go with Tierney, Dessers and Igamani. So out of the 25 person Celtic team, I would have 9 Rangers players in there and 16 Celtic. If it's just swap for swap, if you're not changing what Celtic currently have in here, I mean, if you wanted to do that, then you could fit in more, or you could probably fit in less. But if I'm just going for position, if I'm straight swapping a defender for a defender and a keeper for a keeper, etc., I would put 9 Rangers players into this Celtic 25-man team. So let me know what you guys would do down below. I can't agree with Andy Halliday. I think he's been too harsh. Like maybe by squad. Does he mean by squad potentially the starting 11 and 5 subs? I mean, that's different, maybe. That's a 16-man squad. If that's the case, then I could maybe argue that. But if he means a 25-man squad, I just cannot accept that only 4 Rangers players would go in. You know, I think that's fucking ridiculous. I think you could look at a lot of teams in Scotland and potentially find 4 players from each team that would go into a Celtic 25-man squad. So Rangers, who are the second best team, surely must have more than 4. It is what it is. Andy Halliday, I don't agree with him. Good pundit, not so good footballer. Maybe not so good opinion when it comes to Celtic squads, because I don't agree. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think down below. Catch you in the next one. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and peace.